Greetings. My name is Marcelo Vidigiano, and I'm a PhD candidate at the FrameNet Brazil Computational Linguistics Lab at the Federal University of Juiz de Fora. My research focuses on the development of a new multimodal approach in the field of frame semantics for automatic processing of combined image-text data. The project proposes a novel framework for dealing with image-text correlations and can influence a series of downstream tasks such as multimodal machine translation. Today, I'm introducing a novel frame-based multimodal multilingual dataset called Framed Multi30k. During this presentation, I'm going to tell you what is this new multimodal dataset, how did we build it, and finally, why did we build it? Or why is it important and what can you do with it? So let's start with what is the framed Multi30k dataset. This new dataset builds upon a few benchmark English image caption datasets, namely the Flickr 30k dataset and its extensions Multi30k and Flickr 30k entities, which are widely used for tasks such as image captioning and multimodal machine translation. For those not familiar with these datasets, here's an example of an image from Flickr 30k paired with its original English caption and the equivalent German translation. You can also see the red, blue, and green bounding boxes provided by Flickr 30k entities correlated with their corresponding noun phrases in the English description. So, what we did with this new expansion was adding 31,000 Brazilian Portuguese translations to the original English descriptions, which are also aligned with the 31,000 German translations of Multi30k, adding 158,000 Brazilian Portuguese original descriptions to Multi30k, and also adding more than 4 million frame and frame element labels to the original English descriptions in both Portuguese translations and originals. We also extended the Flickr 30k entities dataset by adding 169,000 manually annotated correlations of frames and frame elements to its existing core reference chains and bounding boxes. Now, let's talk about how we built this dataset. More specifically, how the annotation tasks were set up. The Portuguese translations were created by 28 Brazilian undergrad students with advanced proficiency in English, and the Portuguese original descriptions were created by 148,000 Brazilian undergrad and grad students. Both groups underwent training in the annotation task during a 15-hour workshop where they learned how to use the annotation tool and were able to practice with a test subset of the original corpus. Additionally, all annotators participated in weekly alignment meetings with other annotators and the authors, where they had the opportunity to ask any questions they might have regarding the task. To add the frames and frame element labels to the English descriptions, and also both Portuguese translation and original descriptions, we used a version of Loam trained on Berkeley FrameNet 1.7 and more than 8,000 full-text annotations from FrameNet Brazil. To assure the quality of the annotations, we manually checked random subsets to ensure they adhered to the guidelines, and also ran automatic checks for issues such as typos, missing punctuation, incorrect spacing and casing, forward slashes indicating conjunctions, and so on. The interface used to create the new descriptions in Portuguese is very simple and has its design based on the interface used to create the Multi30k dataset. On the top left corner, annotators can see the image that they have to describe, and on the right side, a progress bar for the task, a text box where they can type the description, a submit button, and the instructions for the task. After typing the description, they just need to click submit and a new image is loaded. The interface for the translation task is pretty much the same, but now they have the original description in English and should type the Portuguese translation. With these two tasks, we are solved the problem of expanding the Multi30k dataset into Brazilian Portuguese. Now, let's talk about adding the framed part for both Multi30k and Flickr30k entities. I'm sure most of you know what FrameNet is and what you can do with it, but just to make sure we're all on the same page before we move forward, let me give you a very quick explanation of what is FrameNet. So, frame semantics, which is the theoretical framework behind FrameNet, is an approach to semantics where the meaning of words can only be understood relative to a broader background of conceptual scenes or semantic frames evoked by these words. Now, instead of trying to unpack this definition with more theory, I'm going to give you an example. When you read the sentence, "In Rome, most foreigners visit the Colosseum," you mentally construct a background scenario or frame that allows you to contextualize the meaning of words Rome, foreigners, visit, and Colosseum. It's only because you have this semantic frame in your mind that you're able to understand that, in this sentence, Rome is a place. The foreigners are the tourists, and the Colosseum is an attraction. With FrameNet, we can annotate this sentence and tag those words as frame elements of the touring frame, which is defined as a scene where tourists experience a specific attraction, a specific place, with a unique history, with the goal of seeing and learning about it. Now, with that in mind, and considering that we have the manually annotated phrase-to-region correlations from Flickr30k entities, we can use a new annotation tool developed for this project to label each noun phrase and its corresponding entity in the image with a frame and frame element from FrameNet. In this screenshot from the annotation interface, you can see the image that is being annotated with bounding boxes highlighting each entity described in the sentence, the sentence that describes this image with noun phrases in the same color as the bounding boxes around the entities they represent, and the frame and frame element that annotators assigned to those entities with their descriptions in the sentence. By doing that, we now have phrase-to-region correlations from Flickr30k entities enriched with fine-grained semantics provided by FrameNet. So, for example, in this sentence, the entity one in the image, highlighted by the red bounding box, and its description in the sentence, a boy, are both tagged as the frame element person in the frame people by leisure activity. And we did that manually for more than 169,000 existing phrase-to-region correlations from Flickr30k entities. Finally, let's talk about why we decided to build this dataset. And there are three main reasons. First, we know that the combination of different communicative modalities is a defining characteristic of human expression. However, until now, FrameNet has been limited to text-based tasks. Expanding FrameNet beyond text marks a departure from 30 years of solely text-based annotation. All the computational tasks that use FrameNet as a framework could benefit from a frame-based multimodal corpus. Second, a lot of recent work in computational linguistics and computer vision has resulted in datasets, models, and metrics focused on multimodal processing. Nonetheless, fine-grained analysis of the semantics provided by the combination of visual and textual modalities are still rare. Adding FrameNet labels to Flickr30k entities should sensibly augment its granularity and informativeness. And because we ran this task under two different setups, one group annotating images in the presence of its description, and another group annotating just the image without the description, we were also able to compare, using consigned similarity, the difference between those two conditions, showing that there are shifts in semantic representation when annotations are shown images with and without the descriptions. For example, annotators who read the image description "a boy jumps on his skateboard while a crowd watches" would be primed to focus on the boy as the primary entity and the crowd as the secondary. But someone doing the task with no description might see this as an image of a group of people, now the primary entity, who are observing not a boy, but a skater, tagging this secondary entity with the frame athlete by sport. Finally, including Brazilian Portuguese into Multi30k adds one of the world's most spoken languages to the dataset family, opening new possibilities for shared tasks on multimodal machine translation, cross-lingual knowledge transfer, and more, fostering a more diverse research landscape in NLP. So, what are the plans for our next release of Framed Multi30k? Right now, we're almost finishing the annotation task for event frames. So instead of annotating the entities and corresponding noun phrases, we are now tagging those images with the event frames evoked by the verbs in each English original description. This would further link entities within the same image as participants of the same scene and improve the semantic descriptions of the situations being represented. After that, we will start a new task of aligning the noun phrases from the English original descriptions with the respective Brazilian Portuguese translations. We already have developed and tested a new annotation interface for this task, and with this, we expect to be able to use the manually annotated bounding boxes from the entities dataset to assign frames and frame elements to image text correlations in our translated descriptions. Upon completing both the annotation to event frames and the alignment tests between English and Portuguese, we plan to train machine translation models using various combinations of this dataset, followed by assessment of the performance of each model. I'd like to thank my PhD supervisor, Professor Tiago Torrent, and my co-authors for their invaluable contribution to this research project. And I also want to thank the organizers of LREC Calling 2024 for this amazing opportunity. It's truly an honor to be presenting our paper at this event. Please visit vididiano.com to learn more and download Framed Multi30k. Thank you so much.